Anyone remember this shirt? It's one of my first pieces of merch. Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. One of the biggest complaints I hear from people who are against moving from the US to another country is that the taxes are higher. And that's true. On a global level, United States citizens pay quite a bit lower than the global average in taxes. One of my complaints with the US, though, is that it's one of the richest countries in the world, and so many of its citizens are living in poverty. A lot of that poverty comes from things that I believe a country on this level should help its citizens with. Medical debt is the single largest cause of bankruptcy in the US. Medical debt shouldn't even exist, let alone be on a level that it's bankrupting people. Corporate greed has caused companies to buy up properties all around the country and jack up the rent, causing people to struggle to remain housed. Most other countries that are comparable to the US use a more socially beneficial system to care for its people. Of course, that means people pay more in taxes overall. The problem I have is when people talk like you're going to pay more taxes, but it's not going to be made up in other areas. Like I'm going to pay more in taxes, but I'll also continue paying a shitload of money for medical care, and the roads will remain in poor condition, and housing costs will continue to rise, and I'll have to continue spending my own money to buy supplies for my kids' teachers. That's not the way it works. Now, I don't think I'll be able to really provide an accurate look into how much I'll pay in taxes in the Netherlands until I've been there for at least a year and have actually paid the taxes. By then, I'll also have a much better idea of the benefits as well, since I'll be keeping track of that. So this is going to be an ever-growing experience where I'll be able to narrow down the specifics over time. But starting out, I'll give a broad idea of what I pay now and what I expect to pay after we move. Last year, I paid about 28% in income taxes, 2% above the US average and about 6% less than the global average. In the Netherlands, if you make over 69,398 euros a year, which I do, the tax rate will be 49.5%, essentially almost doubling my income taxes. Of course, this is where naysayers end their conversation. My taxes will double, and that's the end of the story. Of course, my taxes won't double because that's just a flat number for a single individual. As a business owner, I'll have some deductions from that. We also have 2 kids that will affect our tax burden, and the longer we live there, we might purchase a house which will add more deductions. Again, it will be an ever-changing process. That being said, there are other things that will offset those taxes. First, the cost of living in the Netherlands is lower than where we're living now. As a whole, the cost of living in the Netherlands is a little higher than the US. So if you live in the Midwest or the South, you probably will pay a little more for housing. But we've spent a good portion of our lives living in Southern California and the Seattle area, so compared to that, it's much lower. We're estimating that we'll spend about $1,000 to $2,000 a month less on housing. Then, my health insurance premium will be eliminated. I can't give you an exact monthly amount because on top of our astronomical premium, I also pay co-pays and out-of-pocket expenses every month. There's also a small premium for my wife and I to be able to immediately start using the Dutch healthcare system, but it's very low. I can safely say that I will be paying at least $1,200 a month less for healthcare than I am now. And I will also be guaranteed to never go into debt due to medical expenses. One of the other things conservative Americans will tell you is that the healthcare in other countries with socialized medicine includes long waits, and we're going to get into that in another episode. I have more than enough stories of having to wait at least 3 months for an appointment or having my care flat out denied by my insurance company to completely eliminate that argument, so stay tuned. Then, the higher taxes in the Netherlands pay for roads and public transportation. So depending on exactly where we find a house and where our kids go to school, we might not need a car at all. So I can deduct my insurance premium and car maintenance. It is possible we might just get one car and it'll reduce our insurance and maintenance a little bit. Again, these numbers will all get fine-tuned as we move and figure out what we need and what we don't need. For other people, your taxes will go to help reducing housing costs and help cover childcare, which can be a pretty high expense for many Americans. So depending on your situation, you aren't going to move to another country, pay more taxes, and then have all the same expenses you had in the States. Your taxes will eliminate a number of your other expenses to help relieve some of that tax burden. At the end of the day, the Netherlands is ranked on the higher end when it comes to the amount of taxes you have to pay. But if you're watching this channel, you might not be interested in the Netherlands. There are a lot of other countries that have a more socialized approach to taking care of their citizens that have tax rates closer to the US. South Korea, Switzerland, Australia, and Ireland all have tax rates comparable to the US. Canada, the UK, and New Zealand are all a little higher than the US, but are all under the global average. The countries with the highest taxes are Sweden, Austria, Italy, Finland, Belgium, France, and Denmark. Whatever country you want to move to, check their tax rates and find out what those taxes pay for. You will probably find that those taxes benefit you in a way that will reduce your costs in other areas and help offset those taxes. At the end of the day, even after calculating the things that offset the amount of taxes I'll pay, I will still pay more in taxes than I do in the US. For me, I make enough money that I can afford to pay more in taxes, and I'm okay with that in the Netherlands. I would much rather my taxes go to social programs that lift other people up, instead of having them go towards an overinflated military budget, presidential golf trips, and millions in unused airline tickets for the CIA. I'm sorry that so many people in the US don't believe in taking care of the people around them. For a country with so many people that identify as Christian, they sure don't like to live a Christian lifestyle. Thanks so much for stopping by and watching my little channel. If you have any questions about my move to the Netherlands, you can leave them in the comments. Also, if you have any questions about me personally, you can leave them in the comments as well. I'm collecting those and will do an episode where I answer a bunch of personal questions all together. Click subscribe and you can continue going on this journey with me. Thanks so much, and be safe.